Hey guys, Disaster Area here, back with another video. I've had a pretty busy, crazy week, so I've not really been able to do much of anything. But I did have this idea for a video. I've got a couple other ideas planned actually as well, but I want to do this one first. First sort of interesting piece of data analysis to really do while the first season's really just sort of kicked off. I mean, we're basically about 2 weeks into, well, nearly 3 weeks into season one. Signups have gone up. First tour started. First two rounds have been played. And that gives us quite a bit of data to work with already. Um, and there is some pretty striking stuff. So what I want to start with here is just the top end of the user statistics. So to me, there's quite a few things that stick out. The availability rankings on there, I think, as well, really help you see like what the influence of various things have been. Like it makes certain Pokemon stick out on it, like so having the S ranks, Golduck, Fortress, and Mug, which are generally considered the best three Pokemon. In the first one, in the off season tournament, which occurred in November. Sorry, I'm a little bit block nose. Yeah, in the first tournament, Golduck wasn't number one in usage. And this point, bear in mind it's only been the first two rounds. Golduck shot up to the top after being fifth, which I think partly shows like the metagame being in flux, but I think it will show some other interesting things as well. One thing that sticks out is the B rank Kadabra, which is sitting at number 4. It's tied with Tauros. But either way, you can see it was used a fair amount previously, but below quite a lot of other Pokemon. And it's just it's interesting to see like this B rank Pokemon like shoot up like that high. And I want to talk a bit first about like what Kadabra does, and then I want to go into looking at some explanations for it. So the first thing is that in terms of what it does, it's just like a fast defensive Pokemon that are faster and better, like Tauros and Sceptile. But when it's not properly prepared for, it's pretty dangerous. Its strength really is in like messing over paralysis based teams because like they can often only fit like an Aggron or an Absol to check Kadabra. And they can't really rely on paralysis to keep it in check since it's got Lumberry and synchronized together, which let it switch into Thunder Waves and paralyze the opponent, which is just a nasty little trick. But it does keep it from being checked very effectively by Pokemon like Clefable and Slowking and so on, which can otherwise take a hit, maybe even two. And instead of just like sit up fodder almost for Kadabra. So that's what Kadabra is good at. But like how do you build with it is like the other thing. And when you're building a fence in a tier without trapping, which is what ADV 50 is, you want to be pairing Pokemon that have like different typings defensively, so they offer something different, but have similar checks. So like one of those checks, as we said, was like Aggron. There's also like Sableye and Clefable and so on. And one of the most common partners is Tauros. And we'll be looking like at a few different teams and seeing how it's used. But yeah, generally it's used with Tauros, which obviously has got like very high usage as well. Had high usage before. It's just a good offensive Pokemon. A bit Fortress bait if you're not using the mix set, and struggles to get through Clefable if you're not. So either way, Kadabra is a pretty natural partner. Now, they do both get stonewalled a bit by Sableye, but that's not the end of the world. That's why Sableye is as good as it is, really, is because of being that good against that pair. But even still, you've got play. So I feel like it's a function of it being on teams that are really popular. And like the first thing to back that up is there is a huge difference here. You can see between these two charts. The archetype measurement isn't perfect by any means, but it's good enough to show like a big trend like this. And the big trend here is players dropping off balance for offense. I mean, it was even more stringent at one point, I think. But I mean, you can see right now that offense has jumped up from being about 30% to close to 50%. So there's just a lot more offense in the tier now. And there's a few reasons for that. I mean, I feel like most players who are new to the tier and so on gravitate to offense anyway. Just sort of been my experience. I mean, I personally like love to play like defensive stuff, but that's not most people's natural sort of comfort style. And I think, well, there are some things to say. One is like the addition of new Pokemon. Of course, it's going to have an impact, and I think like this is one of those things. So adding Sceptile just makes offense so much better. It's not just like another offensive Pokemon, but it really stabilizes the teams against like Lantern and Golduck a bit better, and it can just be pretty vicious with spikes up. And we see if we do look at the data that Sceptile's usage, it's an A rank. It's 6th at the moment at 32% usage. So it's definitely like a possible source. Is having Sceptile in the tier goes well with Kadabra and Tauros, and just because people like that kind of team, as a consequence, Kadabra's usage is a bit inflated. Yeah, and I do have to say, I don't think that the B rank for it is unjustified. I just think that it really is a function of people's changing playing styles. One other thing as well, you'll note the Meganium usage. If you look before, it's 4th, and it's dropped down to be at like 28%, down to like 18%. Like I had a massive drop off, and that's like inevitable as a function of like Sceptile being in the tier and just being really good. Is like offense teams that might have used Meganium and as like the best possible thing to help like keep Slowking and Lantern and so on in check, now opting for Sceptile. So about those sample teams, I thought we'd just take a look at those real quick. There's 9 offense teams, 5 are Spikes offense, and there's 2 subpass and 2 weather offenses. We've seen like very few people touching the weather offense lately. And yeah, Kadabra's not on all of these teams by any means, and like that's kind of interesting as well. Like this is the first team that is on the list. So if people are just like playing with samples and just grab the first thing that they see, then they end up using this. So I think like that's a part of it as well. Like this team as well, the second one on the list also has a Kadabra on it, paired with Tauros. The other Spikes offense teams, you've got one with like Tauros and Sceptile but no Kadabra. There's quite a few that don't have Kadabra. These last 2 though are like new additions. So initially it was just these 3 with 2 out of 3 Kadabra on it. So a lot of players in this tournament are still playing with samples. There's a few who don't, who build their own, and I play with teams that I built which are also samples usually. But yeah, just with like 3 of the most like normal offense, like things that players will find most comfortable, had Kadabra on it. So that's probably why its usage is so high. And maybe with like the addition of these samples, as well as more players who build their own teams playing later on in the tournament, we'll probably see the Kadabra usage like drop off, which is part of why I wanted to sort of like show the usage as it is right now, with just like these first 2 rounds at this moment in time before more games have been played. Since, you know, maybe things will change, and like that's something we can sort of come back to. Maybe I'll make another video on. It's just cool having like this live look. And then in terms of like the other 2, there's 2 subpass teams as well. So one with Lanoon, which this is an awesome team. You should play with it. But then also this team, which I'm not as fond of these days. I think players also really struggle to pilot it. But yeah, it's a subpass offense paired with like Carmine Kadabra, and then there's like a Sceptile and stuff as well. So this team has also seen quite a bit of usage, and it was in the samples from the start of the tournament. So I'd put I'd put, yeah, basically down to these factors. Players like offense. There's more offense available and it's better. Players are still using samples a lot. Kadabra's on a lot of the offense samples. So that to me explains that top line sort of interesting piece of data. There are sort of other things here as well which are interesting to look at, like the lantern drop off. But I feel like so much of this explanation can be explained by sort of the drop off in certain stars' popularity relatively, like at this stage in the tournament, and like those sorts of things. Furo usage being so high before is like kind of interesting. So I'm not sure quite why it got so much usage, but you can see it's like dropped off to somewhat more normal levels now. And for the most part, the viability rankings are like somewhat reflective of usage, but no, there's always a discrepancy between the two, like how viable a Pokemon is, like especially in the eyes of like the best at a tier versus where Pokemon's usage ends up at. To me, like I have complaints with like viability based tiering for reasons like this, but whole other topic for a whole other day. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Just wanted to do like this quick piece of data analysis, keep you up to date with the latest metagame developments in ADV 50. Yeah, this is like that top line Kadabra use is just like a great way of showing that offense is more popular, more prominent than it has been previously. And yeah, that's all. Like, comment, subscribe. Hopefully I have more stuff coming out soon, but it like depends on my energy and how busy I am with other projects as well. So yeah, see you in the next one.